Hey guys, how are you? It is Max Powers, sitting on my couch in my living room in my Corona bunker, and I am going over a lot of the files that I have just taking up space. But basically, it's like a school report. What I did this winter. You've seen, I do go up north. I go to New Hampshire. I go through the woods in New Hampshire. I climb mountains. I hike trails. And I just go sometimes out into the wilderness in New Hampshire. My Massachusetts area that I go out in, for the most part, I am stuck because of the large amount of private land in the area. I'm stuck with going through parks and trails and designated areas that I can go out and look in. And I've been very successful in finding evidence. In fact, I didn't think I would find evidence in these areas, and I was shocked that I did. So one of my focuses for what I went out to look for this winter, excuse me, was the link between these parks, basically, and the wilderness of the rest of New England. So I studied some maps. I studied Google Maps. I studied property maps. I just went for drives down dirt roads through the woods as far as I could get to try and be able to substantiate how it is that Bigfoot would get onto this island and down into these sections of woods. And I was pretty surprised at what I found. So what you're going to see here is me out in the woods looking to see if it was possible for a large bipedal animal, human being, whatever it is, to get from the Cape Cod Canal down through the woods into these parks and conservation areas that I'm finding sign in. I went from the area north towards the canal. Actually, it's probably northwest towards the canal, which is a large body of water. Can they swim it? Yes, I think they can. I can't remember the gentleman's name. I know his first name is Tom. And I know that one of Rio's last videos, or last, Bigfoot videos, from before he stopped making them, was a trip out to Vancouver Island where he hung out with Tom. And Tom, in that video, if anyone can find it, was talking about how he's seen these things swim across whatever channel it was between Vancouver Island and I think the mainland, or at least between, across a substantial body of water with a very heavy current. So that's what makes me think that they could do that. Once they get across the canal from the other side, they're faced with where to go. Well, if you follow on a map, and I may put a graphic of a map up here, I may not. I'm a technophobe, so that might not happen. But they come down through the woods, through Plymouth, and they get pretty much right to the canal. They have to cross a highway to do that. I really don't think that's an issue. It's not a divided highway. It's 2 lanes in either direction. And there are plenty of places along that highway where there are channels for water to drain under the highway. So that should be easy enough. Then they have to get across the canal and up the other side. Once they do that, directly across from the area that they would have to come through is a large area of forested land, and in the middle of that large area of forested land, oddly enough, is a military base. And if you've done your homework on these creatures, whatever they are, beings, let's call them beings, I don't like the word creature, there are an awful lot of sightings near military bases. This base in particular is quite interesting. It houses Space Command. I'm not saying that Bigfoot are aliens. I'm not saying anything like that, but It's another just little piece of a puzzle that makes you go, Anyway, once they get around that, there are a ton of different wildlife areas and what have you that lead all the way to the area in which I research. So what you're going to see here are all the things I found between my research area and the military base. I did not go around the military base to the canal. I know it can be done, but I thought me sneaking along a fence by a military base may get me in some trouble. So I opted not to do that. I may at some point try and do that. But this is a trip for the last couple of years that I've really wanted to go through the woods just to see if it can be done. Not only can it be done, but between, let's say, point A and point B, between the canal and my research area, there's probably more evidence of these beings than in my actual research area. So I'm going to narrate you through that. I'm going to shut up. Well, I'm not going to shut up because I'm going to narrate you, but I'm going to get my ugly mug off this camera and then I'll show you mostly photo evidence of just what I found in that area. All right, so here we go. Excuse me. My first trip out into that area, I actually stopped by the town police department, the Mashpee Police Department, because I was on that end of town, or that end of this walk that I was going to be on, and found out where a good place to park is, just to make sure that I wasn't going to get in any trouble. I don't know, because I'm a goody two-shoes or something like that. So, police officer, here's where I'm going to walk. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, if you go down this dirt road, at the end there's a cul-de-sac and you can park anywhere on that. It's public land, don't worry about it. So I go out there, park the truck, and 2 minutes into the woods, headed north from there, I find a tree horizontal. Just like horizontal, both ends snapped off. Tree's probably about 25 feet long, maybe 7 feet off the ground, I would say, and it's just horizontal. So there is a stump right there, but it is probably like 6 to 8 feet in front of where the tree would have needed to be for it to fall between those two trees. From the angle of the stump, it could have gone between the two trees, but not to the left side of it. It would have gone to the right side. Not to mention the fact that what's causing the pressure, or what's causing that tree to stay there, is actually the tree on the far end. The third tree. And the top of that tree is wedged behind it. So there's pressure between the three trees that's keeping it at that angle. So really just kind of an interesting way. Don't think it could have fallen that way. It would have had to been, bizarre crosswinds, very low in the woods in order to get it to do that. In my opinion, that tree was wedged. Here's a picture of another one. So yeah, it can happen in nature, but how often does it actually happen in nature is my question. Area is a little different. The second one is further along in the hike, and you'll start to see the subtle changes in the geography and in the foliage that you find. But basically, there's within 10-minute walk of each other 2 horizontal trees, and I just, that's something you don't see every day, I guess, unless you walk along that path. All right, so now my eyes are open. I'm seeing things that I also see down in the area that I've been observing. And I'm walking through the woods taking a few steps, stopping, looking around, taking a few steps, stopping, looking around. And just as if it were, I mean, this is not far in at all. So we're not far from the first horizontal tree. And I glance down and I see 3 sticks about the same length, all parallel to each other, just right on the edge of the path that I'm on. Now, this is not a trail. It's not a marked hiking trail. It is a path. So people do walk along it. But if you've watched my videos, you know that 3 sticks is something that I find all the time. So pretty confident at this point that my theory that they do come across the canal and down through these woods is a pretty good hypothesis. So at this point in my day, things are getting pretty interesting. And I come across this, which is, do you guys watch Hiker Dave? You have to watch Hiker Dave. If you don't watch Hiker Dave, it's Hiker Dave, New England Bigfoot. Check him out. But I'm pretty sure if you found me, that you found him long ago. So yeah, this is a structure, or it's a series of shapes. And I'm particularly talking about the 2 trees at about a 45-degree angle pointing in at each other against that middle tree. I don't know if the 2 horizontal trees, they're just felled trees. Pushed over, one took the other one down. The big scrub pine that you see took it looks like an oak, down. So I don't know if they're part of it or if they just happen to be behind where this, is it a structure? Is it a glyph? I don't know what it is. But they are found often and well documented throughout New England. I don't think they fell in a windstorm, and here's why. The 2 trees behind, yes, absolutely could have. They fell in the same direction, yada, yada, yada. But these 2 trees fell against each other. They're precariously perched against each other, and the tree, and without that like combination of the 3, this never would have happened. Which makes me think that it was far more intentional than happenstance. So, yeah, there's this. Not sure what to call it, whether it's a giant glyph or whether it's a structure. But take a look at it. Let me know what you think on any of these. Yay, nay, whatever. Are these things Bigfoot? Are they something else? I don't know. I have my suspicions that they go along with this large hairy man in the woods that we are all out there looking for, but let me know what you think in the comments below. But wait, there's more. So down where I usually do my observations, I find an awful lot of twisted breaks in oaks. In fact, I've documented, I think I did a whole video just on 8 or so twisted breaks that I found within like a quarter mile, maybe a half a mile, but I doubt it, like a quarter mile of each other. This one, it's a pine. It was a white pine. And it's not twisted and broken. It's just twisted. Now, white pine is a much softer wood than oak, so I don't know if that has something to do with it. Were they trying to do a twisted break? Was it them? I don't know. I don't know how it was done. I don't know how a person could do this. I do know Native Americans used to mark trails with bends in trees. It was usually like a staggered bend that went up, across, and up again, not things tied in circles. But this was an interesting find. I don't know if any of you have found anything like this in your observation areas, your research areas, whatever you want to call them, but I would love to know. Once again, let me know in the comments below because I'm curious. So yeah, bushcraft. this is a huge tract of woods that I'm in for the area. So if you look, this is bushcraft. This is the obvious bushcraft. And I started with this shot so you could see all the cut ends. There are cut ends on the logs lying on the ground. There are cut ends facing you. Probably just the cut ends I can see are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 13. There's probably far more than that. But they are cut ends. Okay? So we can see that clearly. They're a brighter yellow, they're pointed straight at you. The other thing that I want you to look at is the uniformity in the length of the pieces. So in this particular structure, which is absolutely bushcraft, the logs used on the left side of this, what are we going to call it, teepee, shelter, bushcraft, whatever you want to call it, are very similar in length to each other. And as we go over to the other, with a few exceptions of those little ones in the front that are leaned up probably to hold the boughs there down. But they're also of a very similar length. And here's a better picture of that. The other thing that I want you to notice is that there is room. In this case, there's actually 2 rooms, but there is room for someone to climb inside. Someone probably not taller than 6 feet. And I think that's key. The uniformity, look at how close to parallel they are. They're not perfectly parallel, but the logs used for the most part are fairly straight. They're fairly free of extra branches. There are no Ys, there are no straggly branches all over the place. This is a pretty precise, definitely orchestrated piece of basically architecture, rustic architecture, but architecture nonetheless. Here's another view of the entrance. There's actually a spot where you could go in behind it. So there's 2 definite compartments in this, and it's no doubt bushcraft. It's not completely finished, but it's more complete than a lot of what we see of people out there showing what we are calling Bigfoot teepees. There's a definite difference, and I hope that you can see it by focusing right now on the bushcraft one. There's a uniformity, yeah, it's organized, it's structured, it's very much the way we try and be. Now, the next one is, this is a teepee or structure. This is over the hill, onto a darker side of the hill. Once again, the trees are all different. That was back down the hill by the kettle ponds. So the bushcraft one was very much, there was a lot of cedar in there, and the trees around were different. As I came up the hill away from the kettle pond, the trees got to be once again the white pines and the scrub oaks that the Cape is known for. And you can see the difference of the just the color of the texture on the ground from the pine needles, from the white pines. But this structure is just, it's a I don't mean to say it, it's a disorganized mess. There is just branches everywhere. They're not all parallel, they're not all straight. There are Ys, there are multi-branch pieces here. It's done the same way. It's leaned across a bigger log, but it doesn't. It just doesn't have the uniformity or the calculated structure that we saw on the definite bushcraft piece. The other thing is, I want you to look for in either of the photos I show of this. I want you to look for cut ends, and you're not finding them. Is this, a response to that? Someone put up a bushcraft shelter and these guys were like, oh no, we'll show you how it's done. I don't know. I do know that there's a dramatic difference between what we're seeing here and what typically we see in what I'm calling Bigfoot teepees and that original bushcraft structure. So then I'm going to move along to this next one, and we see the exact same thing. random sizes of sticks, random thickness, random shapes. There are Ys. There are, tons of branches. They're not looking for the straightest stick in the bunch, and they're all kind of incorporated. This one was further on my walk. Once again, down lower, there's a lot more cedar involved in this, because on this hike it goes up and down through woods and then down to these kettle ponds that I mentioned earlier. But if you look at this, there's no uniformity. There's no uniform size. There's no uniform direction. It is just a cluster of sticks, and they are not just leaned up like the bushcraft, but they are woven in. They are intermingled, overlapped, and although it doesn't look it, it's a much sturdier structure because of that. And I think there's something to that. And if there's anyone out there studying these, I would really love to know your opinion on it down in the comment. Maybe someday we could have a conversation about it. My email is maxpowersbigfoothunter@gmail.com. You can also reach me at maxpowersamericanrover for my other channel at gmail.com. But I just want you to look at not only the randomness. I guess that's what I'm doing. It's just a much more natural element with these. But I also want you to look at the fact that there's no spot to crawl inside. So this seems like an awful lot of work for something that's really not a structure. Might be a nice way to start a fire, but it's definitely not a structure. It's a structure in, not a shelter is what I mean to say. It is a structure, but it's not a shelter. So let me know what you think of these. Let me know if you can see the difference. And listen, guys, you don't have to blow smoke up my butt. I want to know what you think of it. I want to know if you think we should rule these all out, which I said a few videos back when I first got back from my trip down south. I came back and said, hey, we got to rule out teepees. I no longer think we do after finding these. And then, of course, there's my original teepee, which I think was bushcraft at the beginning. And here's an image of it now, and you can see that it's been taken over. My old photos of it, there was uniformity. Sticks were parallel. In this one, now, the newer image of it, there's just random sticks thrown on top. And I think that, like I have said before, this was originally a bushcraft shelter that the forest folk, whatever you want to call them, have added to and claimed as their own. So, once again, let me know what you think, and we'll go off to the next section now. So, and this was all found in one area. Like this lean here, this log was only about 5 feet long, but it weighed, I don't know, it probably weighed a couple 100 pounds. I don't know if you can tell by looking at it, but it was soaking wet. And, you can say all kinds of things. People put logs up to dry so they could, no, this is not an area people camp in. There are a few paths in the area, but pretty much getting through there was not a lot of fun. These are not really nature preserves. There's spots of woods that are just empty, that lead around a military base. So I'm sure there's a reason why they're empty. They don't want houses there. They don't want. At one point during this walk, I did actually cross not an airfield, but strips for the lights for the landing field out at Otis Air Base. I don't think it's called that anymore. Camp Edwards, I'm not sure. It's a mixed base now, not just an Air Force base. But throughout my day, I saw things like this log. I saw things, leans. The second picture is of a lean that was just pulled out of the tree. It was, a 12-foot tree that had been ripped out of the ground and leaned up against this other tree. It didn't grow there. It was placed there. This bundle, I don't know if you watch GPE's video, you probably do. He's well known, or you've at least read his comments on everyone else's videos. He's very active in the forest folk, or the Bigfoot, or the Sasquatch community, whatever you want to call them. He's had a lot of, this is not the best version of it, but on his channel he's had a lot of these kind of fanned X's, which are these branches that are just kind of fanned out and pulled together in the middle. His are much more organized than this, but this was definitely not just a random act of nature. These were sticks broken off on both ends that were spread on both ends and gathered in the middle. And I don't know, how to account for that. I don't think people would do it. I think it would be a total waste of time. But something obviously has done it. And then as we move on, just arches and X's everywhere I looked. There were X's, double X's, an awful lot of double X's in this woods. And then there were just areas, this particular stand, and I thought I took more pictures of it than I did. I probably just ran out of space on the camera. It was like a wall of X's. There were 5 or 6 X's that went along, and they were overlapping. They were all sizes anywhere from 5 feet to 25 feet, and they just formed a wall that went along. I didn't bother going through it. First time out in these woods, I don't want to irritate anyone, but it was just a really neat thing. I'll have to go back and find that again and take some more photos, because it was spectacular. So listen, this video is getting really long. I probably talked your ear off, and I apologize, but it has been a while. I hope you saw some good stuff in this video, and really, I just want to know what you people think. I'm not a know-it-all out there telling you what's out in the woods. I'm out there finding stuff, and I just don't know really what's going on anymore. So I'm always open to conversation. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully it won't be as long until my next one. Have a good one. Thanks a lot for watching.